Both the RØDECaster Video and the YoloBox Ultra have an auto-switching feature that can auto-switch your podcasts based on the audio level received from each person's microphone. In this video, we're going to compare side by side to see how the two work, everything from setting them up to actually how they behave in a real life situation. Hi, I'm Aaron Parecki. So this is going to be a side-by-side comparison of the real-world auto-switching capabilities of both the RØDECaster Video and the YoloBox Ultra. Before we get into the details, I want to give a quick overview of how this actually works so you can be sure that it is actually, in fact, a real demo. I want to be very clear. This is a real demo of the auto-switching. Any auto-switching you're seeing in this video is a real demo of the auto-switching on the devices. The demos that you see are not edited in post. So I've got the YoloBox in front of me here and the RØDECaster Video here, and they both actually have the same videos going into both of them. I took the individual camera angles out of a podcast I filmed a while ago, and I've put them into the HyperDecks on my rack here. So these are 3 different separate video clips being played back on these devices, and a copy of each of those is being sent to both the YoloBox Ultra and the RØDECaster Video. So they're actually getting the same video file in sync. Now, also each video file has that person's microphone. So for example, if I show you the multi-view of the YoloBox, you can see that my camera angle is HDMI 2 and my audio is coming in on HDMI 2. Lily's camera angle is HDMI 1 and her audio is coming in on HDMI 1. So this is how I'm able to actually test the auto switching. In a real scenario, you could do this either by running each microphone into a separate camera, or you could actually run microphones in separately. Like for example, the RØDECaster Video has 2 XLR jacks, and this will work just as well plugging in the audio into the XLR jacks, or if you're bringing audio in through HDMI. The YoloBox has a few less options for bringing in audio, but it's the same idea. As long as you can get a separate audio feed in for each person's microphone, you'll be able to do this. Okay, the first thing I want to run through is how you actually set up the auto switching on each device. So we're going to go through the setup phase of the YoloBox and then on the RØDECaster Video. So first, the YoloBox. Now again, you'll want to make sure your cameras are all plugged in and you've got the separate audio feeds for each. So here I have 3 cameras, a wide shot, 2 close-ups, and I've got audio from Lily's mic coming into HDMI 1 and my mic coming into HDMI 2. What we're going to do is we're going to set up to auto switch between the close-ups and the wide shot. So I'll go into this menu here, and now I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it. I'm going to click on the little arrow next to start video follows audio, and that's going to go into the setup menu here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose the audio sources that have audio in our cameras. Here I've got only HDMI 1 and 2 selected. If you had more than 2 guests, you could choose more microphones. So we're going to do that. We've got 2 audio sources selected. Now I can choose which cameras to switch to when audio is detected in each of the options. So you can see in this little menu here, it's saying audio condition, HDMI 1, HDMI 2, 1+2, and silent. So what this means is when there is audio coming in on HDMI 1, I want to switch to camera HDMI 1, that makes sense. Audio for HDMI 2, we'll switch to camera HDMI 2. If there's audio in both of them, we'll switch to the wide shot, which is 3. And if there's audio in neither, we'll switch to HDMI 3 also. So now that that's set up, we can also choose the threshold of how much audio it'll take for that to trigger. So this is saying minus 45 dBs. I'm gonna go and look at the audio levels to see where they're hitting because it depends on the source material. So let's go back to the beginning here. And for some reason, these audio clips are kind of quiet. So yeah, we'll need to make sure that the threshold is pretty low. There's a couple other settings here. Switch sensitivity, you can change that up and down. It defaults to 3. And there's also minimum switch duration, which is 2.5 seconds. We'll leave these as they are, and we'll see how this goes. So now that this setup is done, we can go back over here and then turn on the switch for start video follows audio. At this point, it's now switching automatically. And you can see I'm not pushing any buttons, and it's going to switch angles based on who is talking. One really important question is, of course, how do you stop it or how do you take over and manually switch angles? Well, the way this one works is if I just manually cut to the wide angle, it's still doing auto switching. So it might cut back away from that immediately. Like if I wanted to show this, it might then cut away as soon as it detects an audio change. So if I wanted to actually stop and go back to switching manually or stay on a shot for a while, I would have to actually turn off auto video follows audio, and now I'm switching manually. And then I can go back, turn this on, and now it's taking it over again. So let's see how this actually behaves. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stream from the YoloBox into my studio and back into this recording so you can see what the feed is actually like. I'm gonna go ahead and pause this and go back to the beginning of the podcast, and that way we'll get a sense of what it's like to actually kick this off from the same video file being played into both. So here is the multi-view of the YoloBox. Video follows audio is on, and we'll look at the audio meters while this is going. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually start this podcast and pipe in the video feed into this recording.
Welcome to the House Files, a podcast about building a triplex in Portland, Oregon.
which mostly exists to talk you out of doing it. So
I'm really feeling that right now. People keep asking me, like, casually, like, oh, when is the house going to be done?
yeah.
And I have developed a collection of different guttural noises I make.
Okay.
Like,
It's not that bad yet. Save some of those for a little bit later.
well, it's not. It's just that I have no idea. Yeah. So apparently
Well,
you made a calendar.
Yeah, we do have a little bit more of an idea now. There's at least theoretically a
3 to 8 month window.
three. It's a little bit better than that. But because things are actually progressing now, and the main thing, well, let's start with who's like this week. Turns out it's the weather. The weather's been holding us up. Okay, so that was a quick demo of the auto switching on the YoloBox. Let's switch gears now and go over to the RØDECaster video, and I'll run through the whole setup process here, and we'll see a quick demo. So over on the RØDECaster video, you actually do have to go into the software control to actually set up the auto switching. So over here, I've got Rode Central connected to the RØDECaster video, and this is the auto switching menu. If I open this up, this is where we can set things up. So the way this works is you tell it which camera angles you want to be auto switched to, and then you tell it which audio channels are assigned to those camera angles. So camera 1 is Lily. I'm going to use that one. I'm also going to use my close-up and the wide shot. So now for Lily's camera, we have to tell it which audio's channels are linked to this camera angle. So this is where we can say, okay, well, audio for this is being brought in through HDMI 1. It matches the camera angle. This is, for example, where you would say, if you brought in audio from a wireless mic, you could pair it this way. Camera 2 is me. My audio is coming in from HDMI 2. And then in camera angle 3, we actually have both of our microphones. So I'm going to say that both HDMI 1 and 2 are enabled for camera angle 3, the wide shot. Now you get to also assign a priority to each shot. So you can say whether you want to prioritize the 2 close-ups, or maybe you want to prioritize just the guest of a podcast, not the host. And I'm going to set the wide priority to medium. So now that this is configured, we can actually go and turn it on. So back to the RØDECaster video. To actually turn on auto switching, we just hold down the auto button for 2 seconds. And now in the multi-viewer, you can see that it's going to auto switch based on who's talking. So let's give this a quick listen to actually see a demo of the stream coming off the RØDECaster video. And again, what is going to happen here is the RØDECaster video is actually streaming into a box in my rack. That is going to be fed back into this recording so you can actually see it live.
Welcome to the House Files, a podcast about building a triplex in Portland, Oregon.
Which mostly exists to talk you out of doing it. So
I'm really feeling that right now. People keep asking me, like, casually, like, oh, when is the house going to be done?
Yeah.
And I have developed a collection of different guttural noises I make.
Okay.
Like,
It's not that bad yet. Save some of those for a little bit later.
well, it's not. It's just that I have no idea. Yeah. So apparently
Well,
you made a calendar.
Yeah, we do have a little bit more of an idea now. There's at least theoretically a
3 to 8 month window.
3. It's a little bit better than that. But because things are actually progressing now, and the main thing, well, let's start with who's like this week. Turns out it's the weather. The weather's been holding us up. One other thing to note about the RØDECaster video is how taking manual control works. So with auto switching on, it's going to be making cuts on its own. It's going to make decisions about which camera to switch to. If at some point you want to take over manual control, all you do is you just press on whichever angle you want to switch to. So let's say I want to switch to the slides, the computer screen shared. Notice how this now turned off. So just by pressing a camera angle, you've turned it off of auto switching mode. And now you are in control and you decide which angle to switch to. If you want to turn it back on, you just hold this down for 2 seconds again and it'll go back into auto mode. Okay, so it's kind of hard to tell from those 2 demos how this actually looks. So I'm going to put these both on the screen side by side, and we're going to watch the side-by-side version of the auto switching, see what both of them do.
Welcome to the House Files, a podcast about building a triplex in Portland, Oregon.
Which mostly exists to talk you out of doing it. So
I'm really feeling that right now. People keep asking me, like, casually, like, oh, when is the house going to be done?
Yeah.
And I have developed a collection of different guttural noises I make.
Okay.
Like,
It's not that bad yet. Save some of those for a little bit later.
Well, it's not. It's just that I have no idea. Yeah. So apparently you made a calendar.
Yeah, we do have a little bit more of an idea now. There's at least theoretically a
3 to 8 month window.
It's a little bit better than that. But because things are actually progressing now, and the main thing, well, let's start with who's like this week. Turns out it's the weather. The weather's been holding us up. So you can see it's not an exact science. Both devices made slightly different decisions both different times we've actually run through the podcast. It's definitely based on a little bit of randomness. It's based on the audio levels or what it's done previously, but I think actually both did a pretty good job. In either case, both devices also have ISO recording, so all of the individual camera feeds are recorded as separate files to the drive, and that means you can always go back and re-edit your podcast later as well. And you can also see that both devices had different configuration options. The YoloBox has a lot more options in terms of sensitivity, duration, the audio threshold, and the RØDECaster Video tries to make it a little bit simpler, but you also then get less control. You get to choose priority, high, medium, low, but you don't really know what that means. Of course, the other major difference was that the YoloBox can be configured just with the YoloBox itself, but in the RØDECaster, you actually have to use the desktop software to use Rode Central to configure it that way. I hope this video has been a helpful demo of looking at the side-by-side comparison of the auto switching capabilities in the RØDECaster Video and the YoloBox Ultra. Make sure you subscribe so you can see more videos about both of these devices that I've got on my channel. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.